The fastest way to discover who controls you is to notice whose silence can destroy your peace. One delayed reply ruins your mood. One person becoming distant makes you question your worth. One moment of rejection sends you chasing, explaining, and begging for attention. That is not love, that is dependence. And dependence is dangerous, because the person whose approval you need can control you without saying a word. Islam does not teach you to become cold or avoid people. It teaches you not to make people the source of your value, because people change. They leave, they misunderstand, they become busy, and if your happiness depends on their presence, your heart will never be free. There is a strength in learning to sit alone without feeling abandoned, to stop checking who remembers you, to stop forcing connections, to stop proving yourself to people who have already decided not to value you. You do not need to hate anyone. You simply need to stop handing them the power to decide whether you are worthy. Because when your heart becomes attached to Allah, being alone no longer feels empty. It feels peaceful. 1. Understand why you are addicted to being chosen. Before you can heal your need for attention, you must be honest about where it comes from. Many people say, "I just want love." But often what they truly want is proof that they are not worthless. They are not looking only for companionship. They are looking for a human being to erase an old wound. They want someone to choose them so deeply that every childhood rejection, every betrayal, every insult, and every moment of being ignored will finally disappear. Perhaps you grew up in a home where love was conditional. You were praised when you performed well and criticized when you made mistakes. You learned that attention had to be earned. You became useful, obedient, funny, quiet, successful, or endlessly helpful because that was the safest way to remain accepted. You did not learn that you were loved because you existed. You learned that you were loved when you pleased people. Then you grew older, but the pattern remained. You became afraid to disappoint anyone. You said yes while your heart was screaming no. You apologized even when you were not wrong. You explained yourself repeatedly because silence felt like rejection. You watched people's faces for signs of anger. You became skilled at reading every small shift in tone because your nervous system learned that withdrawal of affection was dangerous. You may call this kindness, but kindness without boundaries can become fear wearing beautiful clothing. You may call it loyalty, but loyalty that requires self-betrayal is not loyalty. You may call it patience, but patience does not mean allowing someone to repeatedly dishonor you while you remain, because being alone frightens you. Ask yourself a difficult question. When you say you want love, what are you hoping that love will prove? Are you hoping it will prove that you are attractive, that you are not forgotten, that you are better than those who rejected you, that you are finally enough? If so, no human being can give you permanent proof. Even the most loving person will have weak days. They may become distracted, tired, unwell, or emotionally unavailable. If every reduction in their attention feels like a verdict on your worth, you will punish them for being human and punish yourself for needing reassurance. This is why some people repeatedly choose emotionally unavailable relationships. They do not only want the person, they want the victory of turning rejection into acceptance. They believe, if I can make this distant person love me, then it proves I am lovable. So they chase someone who gives little, because every small piece of attention feels powerful. They confuse uncertainty with passion. They confuse anxiety with love. They confuse being kept waiting with being deeply desired. But love that constantly makes you question whether you matter is not the medicine for your wound. It may be the continuation of it. Islam asks you to examine the heart, not merely the action, but the motive beneath the action. Why are you helping? Why are you posting? Why are you speaking? Why are you dressing this way? Why are you staying silent? Why are you remaining in a relationship that is destroying you? Are you doing it for Allah, or are you terrified of what people will think? The cure begins with honesty. Say to yourself, I have been asking people to give me something they cannot give. I have been asking them to make me feel permanently secure. I have been expecting their attention to silence every fear. This expectation is unfair to them and destructive to me. Do not shame yourself for this need. Understand it. A wound becomes more dangerous when it is denied. Bring it before Allah. Speak to Him with sincerity. Tell Him, O Allah, I have attached my heart to people. I become afraid when they become distant. I feel empty when they do not notice me. Purify my heart. Teach me to love without losing myself. Teach me to give without begging to be praised. Teach me to be alone without believing I am abandoned. You cannot heal what you keep calling normal. If you panic whenever someone does not reply, that is not always love. It may be dependency. If you feel worthless whenever you are not invited, that is not simply sensitivity. It may be a wound. If you repeatedly compromise your faith to keep someone interested, that is not devotion. It is fear. The moment you understand that your need to be chosen is often an attempt to escape your own pain, you stop blaming every person who cannot fill the emptiness. You begin taking responsibility. You stop asking, why are they not enough for me? And start asking, why have I made their attention the measure of my value? That question may hurt, but it is the beginning of freedom. 2. Stop measuring your worth through people's reactions. One of the greatest prisons is the prison of public opinion. A person can be physically free, financially stable, and surrounded by opportunity, yet remain emotionally chained to what others think. They wake up wondering who approves. They speak while calculating how they are being perceived. They make decisions based not on what is right, but on what will receive the least criticism. People will misunderstand you. This is certain. People misunderstood prophets. They accused the truthful of lying. They accused the pure of corruption. They mocked those who called them to goodness. So why do you expect to live without being misjudged? Why do you think every person must understand your heart before you can have peace? Sometimes you explain yourself because clarity is necessary. That is wisdom. But sometimes you explain yourself because you cannot tolerate the idea that someone may hold a negative opinion about you. That is dependency. You keep sending messages, adding details, proving your intention, and begging them to see you correctly. Yet there are people who have already decided what they want to believe. More explanation will not create fairness in a heart committed to misunderstanding. You need to learn the discipline of being misjudged without becoming dishonest. Let Allah know your intention. Correct what must be corrected. Apologize when you are wrong. But do not perform emotional gymnastics to force everyone to approve of you. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, taught that actions are judged by intentions. This does not mean people will always recognize your intention. It means Allah does. There is peace in being known by the one whose knowledge is complete. Human beings see fragments. Allah sees the whole story. People see a decision. Allah knows what led to it. People see a smile. Allah knows the tears before it. People see silence. Allah knows the restraint inside it. When you forget this, criticism can destroy you. One comment ruins your day. One rejection makes you doubt your future. One person's coldness makes you question whether anyone could ever love you. You give a single human being the power to summarize your entire identity. A person may reject you because of their own wounds, preferences, fears, arrogance, timing, immaturity, or misunderstanding. Rejection does not always reveal your value. Sometimes it reveals compatibility. Sometimes it reveals protection. Sometimes it reveals nothing except that one door was not meant for you. Your worth is not a public vote. It is not decided by likes, invitations, compliments, relationships, or followers. The crowd that praises you today may criticize you tomorrow. If praise intoxicates you, criticism will crush you. If you build your identity from applause, silence will feel like death. This is why sincerity is freedom. When you do something for Allah, you are no longer negotiating with the audience. You still care about excellence. You still accept constructive feedback. You still correct mistakes. But you do not become a servant of reactions. Before you speak, ask, is this truthful? Before you act, ask, is this pleasing to Allah? Before you remain in a relationship, ask, does this relationship help me obey Allah or repeatedly pull me away? Before you seek approval, ask, what will this approval cost me? Some approval is too expensive. It costs your prayer. It costs your modesty. It costs your honesty. It costs your peace. It costs your dignity. It costs your ability to look at yourself without shame. You may gain people and lose yourself. You may become popular in a room while becoming distant from Allah. Never purchase attention with disobedience. The person whose interest depends on you crossing Allah's boundaries does not love you in a way that will protect your soul. The friend who only accepts you when you gossip, mock, lie, or participate in what is wrong is not inviting you into belonging. They are inviting you into shared destruction. You must be prepared to disappoint people when pleasing them would mean displeasing Allah. This does not mean becoming rude. It means becoming principled. Say no gently. Walk away respectfully. Refuse without humiliation. You do not need to announce that you are better than anyone. You simply need to stop selling your conscience for acceptance. Practice doing good that nobody knows about. Pray when nobody is watching. Give charity quietly. Help someone without mentioning it. Make dua for a person who does not know. Control your anger in private. Delete the message you wanted to send for revenge. These unseen acts rebuild your identity around Allah's knowledge rather than public recognition. You may never control how people react to you, but you can control whether their reaction becomes your religion. You can choose not to worship the approval of the room. You can choose to remain truthful even when truth is unpopular. You can choose to be respectful without becoming weak, compassionate without becoming dependent, and humble without becoming invisible. Do not ask, did everyone like me? Ask, was Allah pleased with how I behaved? Do not ask, did they notice my effort? Ask, was my effort sincere? Do not ask, did they choose me? Ask, did I choose what was right? When these questions change, your life changes. 3. Learn the difference between solitude and abandonment. Many people fear being alone because they do not experience solitude as silence. They experience it as a courtroom. The moment the noise stops, every insecurity begins speaking. Nobody wants you. Everyone has someone except you. You are falling behind. You will always be forgotten. The room may be quiet, but the mind becomes cruel. This is why some people keep the television playing even when they are not watching. They scroll until their eyes hurt. They message people they do not even trust. They return to relationships that damage them. They would rather receive inconsistent attention than sit with the emptiness inside themselves. But being alone is not the problem. The meaning you give to being alone is the problem. If you interpret solitude as evidence that you are unwanted, every quiet evening will feel like punishment. If you interpret solitude as a space where Allah is teaching, healing, and strengthening you, the same evening can become mercy. There were moments in the lives of the prophets when they stood without crowds. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, challenged an entire people. Musa, peace be upon him, fled with fear and uncertainty before Allah prepared him. Yusuf, peace be upon him, experienced the loneliness of the well and the prison. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, spent time in the cave before revelation transformed history. Solitude was not always rejection. Sometimes it was preparation. Do not romanticize pain. Loneliness can be heavy. Human beings were created with social needs. Islam encourages family, community, mercy, brotherhood, sisterhood, marriage, and companionship. But there are lessons you cannot learn while constantly surrounded by noise. There are attachments you cannot see until the person is removed. There are weaknesses you cannot confront until distraction ends. When you are always seeking company, you may never discover whether you actually like the person you have become. You know how to entertain others, support others, advise others, and impress others. But can you sit with yourself without reaching for validation? Can you complete a day without needing someone to confirm that it mattered? Can you make a good decision without announcing it? Can you enjoy a walk, a meal, a book, a prayer, or a quiet room without feeling that the moment is wasted because nobody saw it. You need to reclaim your private life. Not every beautiful moment needs an audience. Not every achievement needs a post. Not every act of worship needs to be mentioned. Not every emotion needs immediate human commentary. Some experiences become deeper when they remain between you and Allah. Begin by creating small periods of intentional solitude. Put the phone away. Sit after prayer. Allow the discomfort to appear. Do not run from it immediately. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? What am I afraid this silence means? You may discover grief you never processed, anger you buried, dreams you abandoned, or sins you have been avoiding. Then speak to Allah, not with a performance, not with perfect sentences. Speak honestly. Say, "Oh Allah, I feel forgotten. I know you have not forgotten me, but my heart is struggling. I feel afraid that nobody will stay. Help me understand that your presence is not measured by human attention. Help me trust your timing." Read Quran slowly. Do not treat it as a task to finish. Let revelation interrupt the story your loneliness tells you. Your loneliness says you have been abandoned. The Quran reminds you that Allah is near. Your loneliness says nothing is happening. Revelation reminds you that Allah plans with wisdom beyond your sight. Your loneliness says your future is empty. Faith reminds you that the unseen belongs to Allah. Build routines that do not depend on someone else's availability. Wake for Fajr. Keep your space clean. Exercise. Learn something beneficial. Visit family. Serve someone in need. Prepare a proper meal instead of treating yourself as unworthy of care. Your private discipline tells your soul, "My life remains valuable, even when nobody is watching." Do not wait for companionship before you begin living. Some people delay their entire life. They say, "I will travel when I have someone. I will take care of myself when I am married. I will become disciplined when somebody motivates me. I will feel alive when I find my people." Years pass while they stand at the door of their own life waiting for someone else to give permission. There is a dangerous kind of loneliness that comes not from being physically alone, but from abandoning yourself to keep others. You remain in a friendship where you cannot speak honestly. You stay in a relationship where your values are mocked. You surround yourself with people, yet you feel lonelier because your real self is never allowed to enter the room. Do not confuse access with love. A person may contact you every day and still not respect you. A person may desire your presence because you solve their problems, provide entertainment, absorb their complaints, or make them feel powerful. When you stop serving that function, they disappear. Their departure reveals that you were useful to them, but usefulness is not always love. Solitude becomes peaceful when you stop asking it to confirm your worst fears. It is not saying nobody will ever love you. It may be saying learn to stop abandoning yourself. It is not saying you have no value. It may be saying discover the value that existed before the applause. It is not saying your story is over. It may be the quiet chapter in which Allah prepares you for what comes next. 4. Stop chasing people who keep showing you they do not value you. There is a point at which patience becomes self-deception. You keep saying, maybe they are busy, maybe they are confused, maybe I need to try harder. You create explanations for behavior that has already become a pattern. You receive crumbs and call them a meal because admitting the truth would require you to face being alone. Listen carefully. Islam teaches forgiveness, but forgiveness does not require unlimited access. Islam teaches patience, but patience does not mean volunteering for repeated humiliation. Islam teaches reconciliation, but reconciliation requires truth, responsibility, and change. You can wish someone well and still stop allowing them to wound you. Some people only remember you when they need something. They disappear when you need support. They speak warmly when they fear losing access to you, then return to coldness once you stay. They make promises after every conflict but change nothing. They keep you emotionally hungry so that the smallest act of kindness feels enormous. Stop evaluating relationships only by how intensely someone speaks. Evaluate them by what repeatedly happens. Are they respectful when angry? Do they protect your dignity when you are absent? Do they take responsibility without turning themselves into the victim? Do they honor your boundaries or punish you for having them? Do they bring you closer to Allah or make disobedience feel normal? You do not need to hate someone to recognize that closeness with them is harmful. You do not need to expose them publicly. You do not need revenge. You simply need enough honesty to stop returning to the same fire and acting surprised when it burns you. Some of you are trying to earn a place in hearts that have already shown no responsibility toward yours. You send another message, offer another favor, lower another boundary, and excuse another betrayal. You think your loyalty will eventually teach them how to value you, but sometimes your endless availability teaches them that they can mistreat you without consequence. Boundaries are not punishment, they are clarity. A boundary says, I will not participate in this pattern. It does not say, I am better than you. It says, this behavior is not healthy, and I am responsible for what I continue allowing. When you set a boundary, people who benefited from your lack of one may call you selfish. Expect this. A person who was comfortable with your silence may describe your honesty as aggression. A person who enjoyed your constant giving may describe your balance as neglect. Do not automatically accept their description. The Quran teaches justice, including justice against ourselves. Sometimes you are unjust to yourself when you repeatedly place your heart in the hands of someone who treats it carelessly. You tell yourself that suffering proves love. It does not. Sometimes suffering proves that you are afraid to accept reality. A healthy relationship does not require you to erase yourself. You should not have to become less faithful, less honest, less ambitious, less joyful, or less human so another person can feel comfortable. Compromise is part of relationships, but self-erasure is not compromise. Ask yourself, what am I tolerating because I fear loneliness? Perhaps you tolerate mockery, perhaps secrecy, perhaps manipulation, perhaps a person who contacts you only when convenient, perhaps friends who constantly exclude you but expect immediate support, perhaps someone who keeps you hidden while demanding loyalty. Walking away does not always mean ending every relationship. Sometimes it means reducing access. Sometimes it means no longer sharing vulnerable information. Sometimes it means refusing to argue. Sometimes it means stopping the pursuit and allowing the other person's effort to reveal their intention. Sometimes it means ending contact because every attempt at repair has become another opportunity for harm. Do not use religion to remain trapped. People may tell you to be patient when what they mean is continue accepting mistreatment so the situation remains convenient for everyone else. Seek wise counsel. Understand your responsibilities. Do not make reckless decisions from anger. But also do not assume that Islam commands you to remain emotionally available to every person who harms you. When someone leaves because you finally required respect, let the departure give you information. Do not immediately chase them and remove the boundary, otherwise you teach yourself that abandonment is more frightening than mistreatment. There will be grief. You may miss them even when you know the relationship was unhealthy. Missing someone does not mean returning is wise. The heart remembers beautiful moments and temporarily forgets the price you paid. Write down the pattern. Remember the nights of confusion. Remember how often your worship, sleep, confidence and peace were affected. Allah can replace a relationship. Allah can repair a relationship. Allah can teach you through its ending. Your responsibility is not to force a specific outcome. Your responsibility is to remain truthful, ethical, and connected to Him. Stop chasing those who repeatedly demonstrate indifference. Make dua for them from a distance if necessary. Release the fantasy that one more sacrifice will transform them. Perhaps they will change one day, but you are not required to destroy yourself while waiting. Sometimes the most sincere statement you can make is not another paragraph. It is silence, distance, and a door you stop reopening. 5. Replace the need for attention with a life of purpose. An empty life becomes obsessed with attention. When you have no clear purpose, every message becomes an event. Every silence becomes a crisis. Every opinion feels important. because there is nothing larger organizing your days. Allah did not create you merely to be admired. You were created to worship Him, to grow in character, to fulfill responsibilities, to benefit creation, to seek lawful provision, to care for those entrusted to you, and to return to Him with a sound heart. Look at your routine honestly. How much time is spent consuming the lives of others? How much time is spent comparing, scrolling, checking, waiting, and imagining conversations? You may say you lack energy, but your energy is being drained by constant emotional surveillance. You check whether they are online. You reread the conversation. You study the length of their reply. You ask why they liked someone else's post but ignored yours. You construct a painful story from tiny pieces of information. Then you have no concentration for prayer, work, study, exercise, or family. Create structure. A person without structure becomes vulnerable to every emotional impulse. Decide when you will sleep, wake, work, worship, exercise, learn, and rest. You do not need a perfect schedule. You need enough order that your mood is not the ruler of your life. Begin with the prayers. Let Salah organize your day. It interrupts obsession. It reminds you that every few hours you leave the noise and stand before Allah. Protect the prayer even when your heart feels empty. Do not wait to feel spiritual before obeying. Sometimes obedience creates the feeling later. Choose a skill to develop. Read beneficial books. Improve your health. Serve your parents. Learn Quran. Volunteer. Mentor someone younger. Support a struggling family. Visit the sick. Help a neighbor. Purpose expands when your life stops revolving around who is giving you attention. Some people say, nobody checks on me, while they rarely check on anyone else. Loneliness can make the heart passive. You wait for the world to approach you. Break that pattern. Reach out sincerely, not as a test. Ask how someone is doing without secretly demanding that they repay you immediately. Give because Allah sees. Not because you are creating an emotional debt. But do not turn service into another method of earning love. This is important. You may become so useful that people constantly need you and then mistake being needed for being loved. You solve every crisis, lend money you cannot afford, answer at every hour, and carry burdens nobody asked you to carry. Deep down, you fear that if you stop being useful, they will stop choosing you. Purpose also means accepting the responsibilities already in front of you. Many people search for a dramatic mission while neglecting the small trusts of daily life. Your purpose today may be to pray on time, earn honestly, control your tongue, care for your child, finish your studies, repair your health, or apologize for a wrong. Do not wait for a grand stage. Allah can place immense reward in ordinary faithfulness. When your days contain meaningful effort, loneliness changes. You may still feel it, but it no longer consumes your identity. You can say, I feel lonely tonight, but my life is not empty. I have responsibilities. I have worship. I have growth. I have people I can benefit. I have a Lord who sees every sincere step. Do not chase busyness merely to avoid emotion. Purpose is not frantic distraction. Leave room to process pain. Rest, reflect, but distinguish reflection from rumination. Reflection asks, what can I learn? Rumination repeats, why was I not enough? Reflection moves toward wisdom. Rumination circles the wound. Set limits on social media if it increases your hunger for attention. You do not need to know who is celebrating, traveling, marrying, purchasing, or succeeding every hour. Protecting your heart is not weakness, it is discipline. Unfollow what triggers unhealthy comparison. Stop posting indirectly for one person to notice. Stop measuring your value through views. Build a life you respect in private. Let your room be clean even when no guest is coming. Let your work be excellent even when no supervisor is watching. Let your worship continue even when no one praises your faith. Let your kindness exist where it cannot become content. The strongest identity is not built through self-hype. It is built through promises kept to Allah and to yourself. Every time you wake when you said you would, complete what you began. Refuse what is harmful. and return after failure, you rebuild trust within your own soul. Purpose does not guarantee that people will stay. It gives you a reason not to collapse when they leave. It does not remove your desire for love. It places love in its proper position. It reminds you that your life is an amana, a trust, and you cannot spend all of it waiting outside the door of somebody else's attention. When you understand that, being unnoticed no longer feels like being non-existent. 6. Let Allah heal the places people could not reach. There are wounds no compliment can heal. A person may tell you that you are beautiful, intelligent, strong and worthy, yet the words disappear into a hole inside you. You hear them, but you cannot keep them. This is because reassurance from people cannot permanently repair a heart that has not learned to receive reassurance from Allah. You may have been rejected by someone you loved, betrayed by someone you trusted, ignored by a parent whose attention you spent years trying to earn. Perhaps you were always the person who supported everyone, but when your own life became difficult, the room became empty. These experiences do not disappear because someone tells you to move on. Healing begins when you stop pretending the wound is smaller than it is. Take it to Allah. Cry if you need to cry. Yaqub, peace be upon him, expressed his grief to Allah. Faith is not emotional numbness. Sabr does not mean you never hurt. It means your hurt does not make you abandon Allah, commit injustice, or surrender hope. Some people avoid dua because they feel ashamed of needing love. Do not be ashamed. Ask Allah for righteous companionship, a loving spouse, trustworthy friends, and a supportive community. These are good blessings. But while asking, also say, O Allah, do not make my heart dependent on what I am requesting. If you give it, make it a means of gratitude. If you delay it, protect me from bitterness. If you remove it, keep me connected to you. Allah may heal you by giving you people. He may heal you by removing people. He may heal you by changing the relationship. He may heal you by changing your understanding of it. Do not dictate the exact form of healing and then assume He has ignored you when it comes differently. Sometimes the person you are begging Allah to return is the person Allah is helping you survive. Sometimes the rejection you are trying to reverse is protection from a future you cannot see. Sometimes the loneliness you resent is the distance required for your clarity to return. Make istighfar. Not because every loss is punishment, but because repentance cleans the heart. Sin can deepen emptiness. When you repeatedly disobey Allah, the soul may seek louder distractions because quietness begins to expose guilt. Return. Pray 2 units. Ask forgiveness. Repair what you can. A heart returning to Allah begins to feel less desperate for escape. Guard the night prayer when possible, even if it is brief. There is something powerful about standing before Allah while the world sleeps. Nobody is applauding. Nobody knows. You are no longer performing strength. You are admitting need before the one who can carry it. Say what you have been unable to say to people. Oh Allah, I am tired of pretending I do not care. I care deeply. I feel humiliated by how much I chased them. Forgive me. Restore my dignity without making me arrogant. Remove resentment without returning me to harm. Teach me the lesson without leaving me trapped in the pain. Forgive where forgiveness is possible. Forgiveness does not mean denying what happened. It means refusing to carry the poison forever. You may still maintain distance. You may still seek justice. You may still protect yourself. But do not build your identity around being wronged. You are more than the person who was rejected, more than the friend who was forgotten, more than the spouse who was betrayed, more than the child who was overlooked. Those experiences affected you, but they do not own the rest of your life. Healing also requires gratitude. This may sound difficult when you are lonely, but gratitude redirects the heart toward what remains. You may not have the relationship you wanted, but perhaps you have health, shelter, faith, another opportunity, a parent, a child, a sibling, or a friend you have overlooked because you were focused on one unavailable person. The heart is healed through repeated contact with truth. Allah is near. Allah is aware. Allah is wise. Allah is capable of replacing what was lost. Allah can create love in ways you never expected. Allah can also make you so internally steady that what once controlled you no longer has authority. Become honest, repentant, disciplined, and open to support. Seek professional help when emotional wounds or trauma overwhelm your ability to function. There is no shame in using lawful means of healing. Tawakkul is not refusing help. It is using the means while knowing that healing ultimately comes from Allah. 7. Love people deeply, but keep your heart free. A guarded heart is not always a healed heart. After betrayal, some people say, "I will never need anyone again." They become cold, distant, and proud of their detachment. But this can be pain pretending to be strength. Islam does not call you to emotional isolation. It calls you to balance. Love your family. Appreciate your friends. Seek marriage if it is right for you. Be affectionate. Express gratitude. Show up. Forgive mistakes. Build community. But do all of this while remembering that every human relationship lives under the decree of Allah. Do not love people as though they are permanent. Love them as trusts. Treat them well today. Say the kind word. Make the call. Apologize. But do not imagine that your identity will cease if the relationship changes. Healthy love says, "I value you, but I will not disobey Allah to keep you." It says, "I want you in my life, but I will not destroy myself to prevent you from leaving." It says, "Your presence is a blessing, not the source of my existence." When someone does not choose you, do not audition forever. Accept what is clear. Preserve your dignity. Make dua. Continue living. The person written for you will not require you to become false in order to remain visible. And when someone does choose you, do not make them pay for every person who did not. Do not constantly test their loyalty. Do not demand endless proof. Do not punish a good person for wounds caused by someone else. Bring honesty into the relationship. Explain your fears, but take responsibility for healing them. Remember that even the best people will disappoint you. Your spouse will have weaknesses. Your friends will miss moments. Your family may fail to understand. Do not expect human beings to provide divine perfection. Learn to distinguish normal imperfection from harmful patterns. Keep a portion of your heart's private dependence for Allah alone. When happy, thank Him before announcing it. When hurt, turn to Him before exposing your pain to everyone. When confused, pray before chasing opinions. Let your relationship with Allah be the foundation from which every other relationship is understood. Your heart becomes free when it can say, "I will not force what Allah has not written. I will not beg for what repeatedly harms me. I will not call attention love, or anxiety passion, or self-erasure loyalty. I will not make rejection my identity. I will not make loneliness my prophecy." There will be nights when this freedom feels difficult. You will see people surrounded by companions and wonder when your season will come. In those moments, do not insult Allah's timing. You do not know what He is arranging, protecting, delaying, or developing. Use the waiting period to become the kind of person who can carry the blessing responsibly. If you want righteous friends, practice being trustworthy. If you want a loving spouse, learn communication, patience, responsibility, and self-control. If you want respect, stop repeatedly disrespecting your own boundaries. And understand this, being alone today does not mean